This podcast is provided for informational purposes only and should not be relied upon as legal, business, investment, or tax advice. All opinions expressed by podcast participants are solely their own opinions and do not necessarily reflect the opinions of RCM Alternatives, their affiliates, or companies featured. Due to industry regulations, participants on this podcast are instructed not to make specific trade recommendations nor reference past or potential profits, and listeners are reminded that managed futures, commodity trading, and other alternative investments are complex and carry a risk of substantial losses. As such, they are not suitable for all investors.
Welcome to the Hedged Edge by RCM Ag Services, where we're getting out of the field and onto the mic to bring you weekly market updates, commentary from commodity experts, and monthly interviews with the biggest names in agribusiness. Welcome back to the Hedged Edge. I'm your host, Jeff Eizenberg, with my co-host here, Ben Hetzel. It's week 3, Ben, and it's Friday afternoon. You've got a football game to go to. What's been going on?
Yeah, thanks, Jeff. Glad to be here today. We got a lot of exciting things to talk about, and the markets, they never cease to stop amazing me on how far down we can go. It's all red again today, pretty much. But speaking of football, super excited. I'm a sports guy. You're a sports guy. Little different sports, the way we use a ball, but we're still sports guys.
Oh, yeah.
We got the big homecoming this week in Lemon, where I live, and taking on a neighboring rival team, which is actually I'm closer here at work to that town than I am where I live. So a neighboring rival in Buffalo, South Dakota. So it's been a really good rivalry over the years.
There we go. Well, you could call up FanDuel and see if they could put you guys on there for tonight's game.
I hope he has a great game, and battling some injuries mid-season here for some of our guys, but it's fun. And over here in Scranton, they got the football game in Richardson tonight. So the Hettinger Scranton Nighthawk boys are headed over to Richardson, North Dakota to take the Raiders on. So good games. Should be games that the teams that I'm cheering for can win, but hopefully it's just a good night of football and everybody goes home safe.
Yeah, that's good. Well, we'll check in next week and find out the score here and see if you guys came out on top. Getting into the show, this is week 3. It's taken a life of its own. We've had on some great guests so far, and as we talk more, and it's just spurring all sorts of conversations and discussion and really new ideas for the farmers, the farming community, and everyone in the local area to want to tune in and share ideas with themselves as well. Today's topic, I think everyone's going to think we're probably crazy as we start to think about how this plays out. But what we're going to be talking about is how expensive is our food, and the reality that people are paying $10, $12 delivery fees for a $10 cheeseburger, and that they're still complaining that the cost of food is too high. So let's call this what this is. I'm going to call it out. This is going to be our Dash barometer discussion. And I'm excited to hear what you think about it. I'm excited to hear what others have to say. You can check in with us by tweeting us at ag_RCM, or you can find us on Facebook or YouTube by searching RCM Ag Services. I want to find out what people are paying for their DoorDash, how much they're paying, and in the end, how is it affecting the price of our food? So we'll talk more on that. But before we do, let's do a couple things. First, let's check in on this week's market. It was what it was. A post-week report, pretty quiet. Expectations were that we were going to have this big meeting today with President Xi from China, and it was going to be a scenario where the markets were going to rally because of Trump is going to cut the best deal ever. Where are we, Ben? We're 12 hours after the meeting.
Yeah, a great meeting on both sides is what we're hearing, is based on what I see, but nothing for ag. Nothing. Crickets.
Nothing for ag. There is a little bit out there, some thought that, well, yeah, we've got this 20% tariff on fentanyl, which is raising 80-90 billion of dollars worth of income and revenue, and that they're going to take that money and kick it right back into the farmers. We've been hearing 10, 11 billion in farm aid. If that's what they have to do, that's what they have to do. But I don't know about you. I'd just much rather see us selling our grain.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the best thing that we can have going on is just fair trade. And there's a lot of talk that if the Supreme Court rules it's unconstitutional what Trump's done with tariffs, that could have a devastating impact on these markets. And I think farmers and ranchers just need to be prudent with marketing decisions and mitigate risk where they can, and in hopes that all that's just hooey and goes away. But the risk is there. However they plan to utilize money to rob Peter to pay Paul, so to speak, is just nonsense. We need fair markets, and we need a market that's profitable for our producers. And I don't think any government form of bailout has ever been good for the ag sector long term.
Right, you're right. And it might be a short-term band-aid. And, there's talk and hope that ultimately we get a deal done. Doesn't seem like this crop year, but let's say for next. And maybe that's the reality. We were facing these current prices or possibly lower because everyone's got a great crop coming. And we'll have to take in the aid, do what we have to do to get on to next year. And then, hope that we have a new strategy. And you and I have talked about the word hope. And that's one thing that I've been trading my entire career, 25 years. And whether it's a hedge fund or agriculture side of the business that I've been on, hope is not a strategy. And that's one thing that I feel like this show, as we've pulled it together and talked and communicated, that our goal is to help people understand that there are opportunities in the marketplace. It doesn't have to be because you love the price. It doesn't have to be because you have to sell. It has to be because you have a plan and a strategy.
Well, that's a great topic because, the last 2 years, at least even longer than that, but the last 2 years particularly, we're in wheat country. So that's a huge concern for all the producers that I talk to. Um, Hopefully, they've got other grains as well, because it seems, or hopefully they like to grow other grains, because it seems like we're moving away from wheat, or trying to. But as you look at the wheat market, the last 2 years, there's been 20-cent carries between the contract months pretty steadily. There's some that come in tighter, 13, 15 cents. But, by expiration, a lot of times they widen back out to 20 plus cents. We've seen them as wide as 30 at expiration. But, at one point in time, there was a 60-cent carry out through 3 months. And that's giving you a great opportunity. Even if you don't like, to your point, the price up front, you can maybe look out there and find a spot where it works logistically to market some grain that traditionally would have a good basis, a traditionally good basis. And I've been talking to growers lately about that very, very topic. We need to be calling into the elevator merchandisers and saying, hey, if I deliver in Jan, Feb, March, what kind of basis could I lock in today against this carry? And they can go to work on that. You make those offers, put that grain out there for them to go try to market, because by the time we get there, oftentimes, Jeff, you've been in the market a long time, these carries converge to the front end.
Yes.
And we just see this same flat price all the way through the marketing year, or a range of that. So last year at harvest, we on 14 Pro Spring Wheat, particularly, just as an example, we dipped down into the high $4 range, which everybody was just, their minds were blown that we'd have a 4 in front of the price of wheat locally. But it happened. And then we got back to 5.25. And I'm like, guys, we might have to be happy with this price.
Right.
Not saying this is it, but it's going to take something non-traditional to break out of this. While we didn't get it on the futures, we got that steady yo-yo effect, but as it went down. The only reason we seen $6 cash or high $5 cash was all basis. And in a lot of ways, it was non-traditional situations that don't always present themselves. It wasn't seasonal demand that created that opportunity. It was a shortened market. Somebody needed to cover. And advantages for the farmers that are near that, but you can't count on that. You can't hope that that's going to happen again. To your point, hope is not a strategy. So you got to look out there and say, okay, what can I get for a basis to take the carry out of the market? Whether it's corn, corn's got nice carries out into the new crop. The wheat has a nice carry. There's usually an opportunity out there if you're looking for it. And if your facility that you're marketing with or your buyer is willing to roll positions, you can take some risk off that way as well. And I don't want to get too far into the weeds on some of that, but as I do a lot of stuff with over the counter using swaps. We do a lot of non-traditional contracts for growers where they're making offers, getting premiums, and maybe the market spikes. And being an independent co-op, as Scranton Equity is, in the way I operate it, which is kind of nice that I'm the guy that's choosing how much risk we take because I'm reporting to a board and they're all in the loop of what I'm doing. If you're a bigger company, maybe you don't have the flexibility to do some of this stuff, but if that market were to rally and you want to blow out all that offered grain, we can potentially roll that into a new crop position if it were to hit. And if you're offering grain, it's usually above the market on those deals. So it's a premium to where we're at today. And if that hits, that means the market did respond. It did what we were hoping it would do. We wanted it to do, and we're being rewarded. And okay, we got rid of all our grain. So now we got to roll that position to a new crop. That means that new crop value's better than it was when you put this position on also. I don't find a hole in that strategy.
Yeah, you're right in thinking along those lines. And sometimes people think about price and all they see is the flat price. And the difference between a flat price and the pricing you're talking about is that you need to break it apart into two. And so we're taking a little bit of time here in this episode to speak about the difference between futures and basis and challenge people to think a little bit more outside the box in having those types of conversations with their buyers. Right now, we are seeing offers on the futures side with some of the cash contracts that you're talking about that include OTC and others that could be as over $5 in 2026 for the futures portion. Now, basis is the other side. Are you, as an elevator, going to put out basis offers for 2026 crop? Probably not right now, but coming up into the middle of next year, you will. So people will have the opportunity today to think about pricing a portion of their grain for next year, even though they don't love the price of this year's grain. And I do want to make a note here. We've talked and you've said, well, people traditionally don't like to do that because they don't know if they're going to actually grow the crop. Have you ever gotten to a point talking with guys that they don't have anything to sell?
Good point. Generally there's something left year to year. Most farmers that I've ever worked with, there's a few that'll sell out of certain crops, but generally there's one or maybe two that get stashed away and kept as a reserve. And the old mentality that I heard a lot of times growing up from my dad was, well, that's my bank account. If I don't raise a crop, I got something to sell. I don't know that he was always thinking that would mean the market would rally and he could sell it for more, other than it's just he had it to sell. And I'm not going to speak for him, obviously, but as I've been around and heard those conversations, that's what it appears. For certain people, it's kind of a little nest egg. But generally, producers will have, especially in wheat country, it seems like we always carry about 25% or more. Seems like the reporting coming out is always around 30% stocks on farm.
Yeah.
So that means we're carrying a chunk of grain all the time. And I would challenge growers, why is that not forward contracted in a carry market all the time? Why are you not taking premiums out of this market all the time? You don't have to get way out into the future with that. You can be 3, 4 contract months out, you know, 6, 9 months if you want to get aggressive, and take that carry out. You have the grain. There's virtually no risk to you if you weren't going to market it anyway, other than you might actually market it. And if that's a crime at that price, then don't do it. Please don't do it. But if it's a good price, it's way above the market, and you're going to be disappointed in that. That'd be the only reason not to do it.
If you want to listen back to this episode or find past episodes of The Hedged Edge, visit kbjm.com or kndcradio.com under Listen Live and podcast options, or either station's free mobile app under podcasts.
Shifting gears a little bit to harvest, since we're heading into that time frame. It's almost fall. Next week will be the first week of fall, and probably by the time this show airs, it will be. The numbers are big. We're looking at a huge crop nationwide. You've shared with me that you've got some great crop coming in, maybe some quality concerns about the freeze that you had last week. I'd love to kind of hear from you, where you are there at Scranton Equity, and talking to the farmers in that area. How's the quality look? How's the crop look? And more importantly, where are you going to put all the grain?
A few challenges there in that statement. The quality, from what I'm seeing and talking to people, we're optimistic is the word to use there. Don't really know how it's going to pan out, but I was in some fields with some guys and picked some ears. I got to get them checked still, what we're dealing with there, but I was really encouraged by what I was seeing. Been hearing it, so I had to see it for myself to believe it, so to speak, because it's just a kind of uncharted territory. And to be honest, the last experience I had was not good. We ended up with super light corn that stayed at close to 20 moisture, and there's limited places to go with stuff like that. So really encouraged. I think our overall quality is going to be better than what a lot of us anticipated in most of the areas. Obviously, there's going to be the entire spectrum of really bad stuff to stuff that wasn't even hurt. I talked to a farmer near the Rame country this morning, and he said he got up in the middle of the night to check the weather, and his son's got a field that, for whatever reason, when he checked the weather, there was a cloud on the radar right over that spot where his son's field is, his cornfield. And he refreshed it because he couldn't believe there'd even be a cloud in the sky, but he refreshed it, and I'll be darned, that was the only place in the southwest corner in North Dakota that had a cloud, and that field did not freeze. The only thing he could attribute it to is his son's been going to church a lot.
Hey, sometimes it pays.
So, but yeah, it's better than we thought, and we're cautiously optimistic that it's going to be okay. We're going to have something to market. I don't know where we're going to put it. I think the baggers will be working overtime to put it in the big white bags out in the field. If it's quality that can be exported or blended, we'll find some homes. There's a good export program for corn and on the PNW. There's other homes as well, and this grain will navigate through the pipe. And you get quality issues, basically the best thing you can do is stash it away and get through harvest, and then bring those samples, bag samples, bin samples, whatever it is, bring them in, get them checked, figure out what grade flow it needs to go through, and get steel wheels rolling.
Sounds like a good plan. Well, let's take a minute here, Ben, since we're staying on topic of quality and bagging and bringing in samples. Would you mind giving us a quick update on what's going on with the co-op? I know you've had a huge project you've been working on, and some new storage facilities, as well as a revamped track rail line. Tell us what's been going on out there. What's the status of the project, and when can people start to expect to start hauling in more grain?
Yeah, so we started this project ultimately over a year ago. We changed the traffic flow and put up a new scale and grading house and grain office. got the trucks navigating through the facility a little bit cleaner and smoother. It's been well received. It's not ideal because the way the community is laid out here with the railroad track, and there's a creek that runs through. So kind of limited at what options we really had there to fix the traffic flow with all the infrastructure that's already in place. But we think we got a pretty good plan going forward. That was phase one, and now phase two is well underway. As you referenced, we're putting up another slip elevator. It's a big investment for the co-op, big investment into the community. It's going to have far-reaching effects. I'm anticipating with speed at which we can dump. Today we have basically two concrete workhouses that we use to handle the multiple commodities that we're doing. And each one of them has a dump pit inside those workhouses. So it's basically two dump pits, and it's going to be going to 4. And the 2 new ones are high speed. Each one of those dump pits is faster than the 2 pits we have today. So
Nice.
Quite an increase in velocity of receiving. And as we looked at it, the age of the workhouse and the loadout facility for the amount of grain that the equity has handled over the years, it was time to really look at investing in another loadout that's high speed, so we don't have to spend 12, 15 hours loading these trains. We can get them loaded in 6-7 hours.
Wow.
Because of the track layout. It just makes it kind of a non-event, if you will. But that's the idea is there's less and less people in the rural communities that are wanting to live here, and we got to speed this stuff up and take care of our people that do work for us. And it's going to be a huge advantage. And with the changes the railroads made to their policies on how they handle these big timed out trains, it's going to be a really nice addition. So if it comes in the middle of the night, don't necessarily have to get up super early and go get that train loaded. We can kind of pick our time slot, get it loaded, and move on about the day. So huge advantage for the producers in this area. It's going to be a legacy facility. As you know, these concrete houses stand for many years, and super excited about that. But we are back out of the ground.
Yes.
We're on the surface of the ground and getting ready to go up in the air. So the crew is working diligently to pour the last slab before they build the form. And once that form's built, we'll be slipping.
Wow.
So super fun.
Next year's crop be up and going.
Hopefully, if the weather holds and they get the slip done here late October, which is kind of the anticipated optimistic timeline, maybe early November, and then all winter and next spring they'll spend putting the equipment in place, and hopefully we'll be able to fill it harvest the next year. But it could be September.
Great. Well, if we get another crop like this one, you're gonna be pretty busy out there.
Yeah, lots of bushels, and takes a lot of effort on our people, and I'm super excited to see this change for not only our producers but our employees, and it's going to be fun. Just need the bushels next year as well.
Hey, from your mouth to God's ears, right?
That's right.
Yeah. Well, good luck, and keep us posted. We'll be checking in with you on that as we talk more.
Want more agricultural market expertise? Listen to full episodes of the Hedged Edge podcast wherever you get your podcasts, or visit rcmagservices.com. Get the complete market analysis and strategies you need to succeed.
All right, we're going to shift over to this week's main topic, which, not that we didn't already cover a lot, but we've been talking over the last couple of weeks to different people. We've talked to the banks. We've talked to Dwayne over at Dakota Western Bank. We talked with David Munoz with Bartlett, and the same topic keeps coming up. We've got higher priced beef. We've got higher priced cattle. And we've got the fact that people are spending more and more at the grocery store. They're spending more and more for a normal meal. And there's a consensus out there that the consumer is feeling pressure and a pinch. So I really want to throw it out today that I don't really think that the consumer is in that much of pain. If you think about it, Dwayne brought this up to us the other day. that people are buying their fast food or their convenience food. Let's call it that. They're buying it on a credit card and they're buying it through DoorDash. They're buying it through, some of these convenient solutions. Well, if they're doing that, how much are they actually paying for the food versus how much they're spending and it's actually impacting their pocketbook? That's the question. And then we can ask, is food really that much more expensive? Or can people afford even higher prices?
I don't know if I even want to touch that topic because, to each his own. But no, I think it's an interesting scenario that's unfolding. You know, we're not. I don't think any of us are naive to the credit card game. If you don't pay that credit card off every month, then you are financing whatever it is you're putting on there. And if that's fast food or whatever it is, I would just about bet there's a whole lot of convenience purchasing in there. We've become a convenience and instant gratification society.
Yes.
Take care of what I want right now. And I mean, I'm a victim. I'm in it. And so, it I don't think people in general now, of course, we live in rural America. You're in closer to big city life. I mean, you live it. Um, so it's hard for me to even comprehend what's going on in that realm. But out here, I don't see a lot of adjustments being made. I still drive by a few C stores in the mornings and people are in there getting their breakfast or their coffees, or maybe they're packing a lunch for the day, whatever it is. That's the most expensive place to buy that. And I don't see a change in the flow of traffic in and out of those places. So, and I haven't changed my habits, but I know that when you go buy a steak, it's $20,
It's
20
expensive.
some dollar steak. And fortunately for myself and my family, we raise our own, but that's opportunity cost too. You know, I could sell that and not eat that steak. But, so the prices have gone up. I don't think it's hit the retail stores, the big box stores like it's going to. That we'll see that starting to develop here in the fall months, probably more and more as these prices, there was a stockpile of product in the system that maybe didn't have prices ratcheted up on yet, but it's coming, and so what does it take to start breaking habits? I honestly think that, as I think my dad might have said this years ago to me or a few years back, that the only time you'll really change people's habits is when they get hungry. Literally, you got
Yeah,
to get
and we don't
hungry.
see that in our country right now. I
No.
mean, to be honest, I was like you, don't change the habits too much, but the other day I was at last weekend, went to Ohio State football game and we just tailgated. So we were down, we're waiting, and we got late to the tailgate, so we missed all the good food. And I said to my wife, let's order Chipotle. I bet you I can get it delivered to me standing here on the corner. And she said, "No way. I don't know what you're talking about." I go, "No, watch this." Pulled up my Chipotle app, hit the button, ordered three different Chipotle burritos for us, for her and I, and a friend. And all I had to do was type in my location. And next thing you know, 30 minutes later, I was standing at a corner waving down a guy in a yellow minivan, and he dropped off my food. Now, it cost me $10, but that was the best $10 I ever spent. I almost even bought the steak Chipotle to spend a few more dollars just so I could feel like I got it all.
Oh man, that's an amazing story, because if you'd have bought a nacho in the store or in the stadium, it'd cost you what that whole meal cost you guys.
Yes, exactly. Right. So I think the point in all this is that employment is strong. There's people utilizing these middlemen services and these tools that have been created. And I looked up the data, and in a 5-year span, DoorDash and these different types of companies have increased their revenue from about $1 billion to 12 billion. So 12 times the amount of money is being spent on these services. Again, post COVID, COVID accelerated this middleman business. And now you think about people, Instacart shopping, having people go shopping for them. What are they paying? $5, $10 more on top of their grocery bill. People are complaining about the fact that the prices are too high, but the reality is they're spending more on these service conveniences that they don't need to spend. So to your dad's point, to your point that you made that your dad said, I don't think that there's actually a problem with the cost of food. It's likely that people have become a little bit lazy.
Yeah. Hard to believe that like Walmart delivers groceries, or you can send it, call your order in and they'll deliver it, like DoorDash. Out here in rural America, they'll drive 25 miles. I'm not even making that up. I didn't know that was a thing. They'll literally deliver it to a neighboring town 25 miles away if
And what's
you're
the
willing to pay
charge?
for it.
How
I have no
much?
idea. I have no idea. But that just blows my mind. For then the gas to go to Walmart and pick that up and spend the extra 15, 20 minutes other than the drive time just because you're driving through town and traffic and go in the store, out of the store. I mean, I don't know if you could charge enough for that.
I think you should at the game tonight. You should try the Chipotle game that I just played. I don't know how close the closest one is to you in Lemon, but put it in if you can and text me how much the delivery fee is. If it's not Chipotle, I'm sure Chick-fil-A or something else around you has it. Text me the picture. I have to know. The listeners
Oh
have
my
to know. They
gosh.
have to know.
I should try to do that. I'll try to remember. You might have to text me later to remind me. My mind might not be on Chick-fil-A or Chipotle. I don't even know where there's a Chipotle. I'm guessing Bismarck, 2 hours away.
Well, it might be a little cold by the time it gets to you
Oh,
from Bismarck.
I hear you though. I don't think the price of that stuff has gone up to a point where people are going to change their habits. And it's too easy to get extended credit on your credit cards or whatever it is. And we've seen an increase in pay scale in rural America. I'm sure it's happening everywhere. So as people have earned more, even though their dollar doesn't go as far, there's perceived idea that I've got 3-5% more to spend on convenience or entertainment or whatever it is. And beyond the food, and we won't even touch this because this would be a whole nother rabbit hole, but how many apps and TV channels, subscriptions do Americans have that are just hitting their credit cards and they don't even know anymore? I look at mine and I'm just like, my darn kids, every time I turn around, there's something on there. I'm like, stop doing that. We're not doing this. And so if you don't monitor that, pretty soon you're just getting gobbled up with these $10, $2, whatever they are, fees for these subscriptions. It's crazy. Now there's service companies out there, these middlemen, as you call them. They're out there helping you figure out how to manage that.
Right.
Instead of making a business off of your bad decision making, it blows my mind.
Yeah. Well, we're going to keep track of that. We're going to call that the Dash Barometer. I think we keep track of it. I think we put a challenge out to listeners to text us or send us a picture of cost of a convenient drop off at your home. I'd love to see that. I'd love to hear from people if they can do it. It's just you're going to need to take a picture and drop it in on Facebook or the YouTube channel or even email it in to us if you like. But I'm gonna report on this one. So um, more to come on that front.
If you're enjoying today's show, check us out on Facebook. Just search RCM Ag Services for market updates and tips. Find us on Facebook today.
You talked about the cattle prices being high, and we've talked off the air and conversations and whatnot about the government. I've seen the video, and I don't know if you've seen it. I've talked about it with people that Trump stood in front of a group at a podium and said, "We got the price of eggs down. We're going to get the price of beef down." For the ag community, that should infuriate us. But yet, the American people are concerned about it. We don't want the price of beef to go down because we raise it. You don't raise beef, so you want the price of beef to go down. So when you order that Chipotle steak burrito, it doesn't cost you $30 next time.
Right.
And so there's conflicting opinions on what's in the best interest but it comes down to each individual, just like the rest of this stuff. But again, mitigating risk is so important for the egg producer on that front. And hope is not a strategy. You said it. And I think that we should stand on the hill with the flag all day long, preaching that. But one thing that every producer is realizing, and I think our next episode down the road we should bring in a guy, and I've got an idea for an agronomy input speaker. He would shed some light on what's going on in the input world. But what we're seeing is, after an adjustment for inflation, some of the highest price inputs compared to the lowest price for production. That disparity's gotten so wide, our producers are really in a pickle. And so I think to call out, one of our goals with this podcast is to help navigate that space and educate producers on opportunities in the market and tools that are out there. And I encourage growers that are listening and people that know producers that are listening that might hear this, point them at this and tell them, hey, there's somebody out there that might be able to help you. And I think the partnership that we have, Scranton Equity, RCM Ag Services, yourself, me, and the team that we have around us can do a phenomenal job to lead people to the right solutions for their challenges. And I just wanted to call that out.
That's right. And it's a great way to wrap up today's episode and segment, is to repeat the theme. The team is everything. It's what we all need in order to be successful. Not one of us knows everything. Not one of us is going to have the right answer every time. But if you share your ideas and you're willing to talk about the good and the bad, not just the wins, but also the losses and the risks that you face day to day, there's going to be a solution for you. And unfortunately, it can't come at the end when you're faced with harvest and you haven't made a sale. It has to be along the way, throughout the year, in advance, like we talked about earlier in this episode, even as far as 6, 9, even 12 months in advance. So definitely plan on checking in with Ben, getting involved with your local buyer on a more intimate basis, your bankers, your agronomists, and your brokerage firms, and talk with them about how they can help give you some good ideas. Share with them your ideas as well. And what we hope in the end is that these episodes, these shows, yes, we're having a lot of fun today talking football and DoorDash, but we're hoping that in the end, people are taking a minute to reflect and think about how their farm and their operation is managing and mitigating risk.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you again for the great week on this show. We'll be back on the mic next week and next few weeks after that. So good luck in football this weekend. We'll talk early next week.
Yeah, enjoy your weekend. Can't wait to catch up next week. Thanks, Jeff.